Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about this exciting and highly talked about Mercury Retrograde in Sagittarius coming up at the end of November, starting on November 25th, 2024. And it's not just a Mercury Retrograde this year. We are having a very, very rare astrological configuration that will be coming through at the end of November and stretching all the way through the month of December. Yes, this is the debilitated mutual reception of Jupiter and Mercury. Jupiter debilitated in Gemini retrograde, going exact opposition to Mercury debilitated in Sagittarius retrograde. Okay, we have a debilitated Gemini-Sagittarius axis coming up during this time, and we are about to have a major showdown of concept, essentially a major showdown of abstract ideals, ideologies, and in some cases just a showdown in general about what our aim is, what our goals in certain sequences are. There's going to be a change in sequence coming up. There's going to be a change in the way we think about things, and we're going to start telling ourselves different stories about some of the long-running features of our lives. In this video, everyone, I'm going to talk all about this, and thank you so much to those of you attending the live premieres every Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you so much for those of you subscribing to this channel, checking out the description boxes, and grabbing a free trial on Patreon if you wanted to try out this channel's premium service, which is available for free right now on a trial, so you can try before you buy. Definitely go and check that out. That is only available for a limited time, and I will link that as the top link in the description box. So what all do we want to talk about this week, everyone? First of all, I'm going to throw some dates at you all. So yes, Mercury goes retrograde on the 25th of November. We are coming here a little bit early because I think with a transit like this, we need to get out ahead of it. But yes, on December 4th, 2024, we will have the exact opposition of Mercury and Jupiter, both retrograde in Sagittarius and Gemini. And then, yes, Mercury will retrograde back and go quite a bit off of the opposition angle from Jupiter, where it will station direct on the 15th of December, and then it will move back and go back into exact opposition with Jupiter on the 26th of December, where it will then eventually move off, and by about the first or second week of January, this configuration will split up and will solidly start going into the Mars retrograde in Cancer cycle. So this obviously is majorly highlighting the month of December 2024 as a very powerful time for changing the mind, okay, for coming to different conclusions about maybe long entrenched philosophies that we may not even know that we're operating off of, that may not work anymore. This transit is going to be all about communication and correspondence, right, with both Mercury and the sign that Mercury rules, Gemini, being represented here. So I am going to just stream of consciousness about this transit a little bit, but then I'm going to talk about some specific elements that I've got outlined. We'll probably go into communication. We'll go into what this means for relationships and what this means for kind of like just organizing our lives. Because I think that that is what this transit kind of indicates at a quantum level. Something is very disorganized for this kind of transit to manifest. It speaks of disorganization. It speaks of maybe blowing certain issues up that are not important, Jupiter and Gemini, and then maybe also minimizing really important issues, Mercury and Sagittarius. So there's something off, and I definitely, yes, encourage you to look in your own life. Like, am I minimizing something really important, or am I putting way too much focus and attention on something that's not that important now? We definitely see if we're kind of like letting our mind run rampant and just letting ourselves be controlled by impulse. Impulse is a big thing to look at here as well. I've been talking this year on my channel about the wood dragon, about emotional maturity through serenity, about the quiet, solitary nature of this year that really pays so many dividends. This partly is because I knew that this transit was coming, where we were going to maybe be really tested with our impulses, be really tested with how much energy we're injecting to certain issues, and how we choose, how we basically budget energy. So energy budgeting is a major topic to talk about. Let's talk about that in the context of this transit. So budgets of money, budgets of energy. This is going to be a very important thing to get into order during this time. Careful about impulsive spending here. We really have to be meticulous. Otherwise, we can even start to see in a transit like this that there are self-destructive impulses, or that, we are really going to have to cut up the credit cards, or we're going to have to perhaps uninstall some of the apps on our phones, or we're going to have to set screen limitations. Again, recall, we've had Jupiter-Saturn squares, which are going to happen again in December as well with this configuration. I've already made a video about that, which I will link below in the description box, about the squares between Saturn in Pisces and Jupiter in Gemini. Now we're going to have a T-square, okay? Mercury in Sagittarius, Saturn in Pisces, and Jupiter in Gemini. And I suppose whenever the moon goes into Virgo, there will be a mutable cross at that time. Now, the mutable configurations like this can be sometimes more difficult to pinpoint how they manifest than the cardinal or the fixed transits, because the mutable oftentimes plays out in a more abstract and philosophical, conceptual way. So there's going to be a major reorganization needed, you all, for some of the abstract elements of our lives. So that goal you work for like 10 years or 20 years, there's an emphasis on changing or beginning to maybe like question or refine long-term goals here. Anything, okay guys, this is so good. This is so good. I'm so happy this is coming up. Anything in your life that is like not real yet. Okay, so I think about eventually having the career of my dreams, or I think about eventually starting a family, or I think about eventually getting back into the dating pool, or I dream about, the time at which I finally overcome this long-running issue, what I'll do then. I think about being in that role of my dreams and what it would be like for me to be in it. This is like all kind of like inchoate manifestational grid stuff, and something about this is really going to come up in this transit. So I know that on this channel, and those of you who subscribe to this channel, we're all dreamers here. We all like to dream about a better future and about, how we can work in a real, tangible way to bring about, our dreams, right? Because life is not just about never-ending, grueling work cycles. We need to see what the real leverage of that is during this transit, though, because I'm seeing some people not realize it perhaps, but they are like working in a different direction than what they're dreaming. So that sort of like conflict between action and dreams is something that will be really apparent during this time. And there's so much incredible work we can do during this transit to work on this. It's a really perfect transit. And we may not see this until like January or February. But this transit, as rare and odd as it is going to show us every single flaw in the way that our actions either do or don't support our goals, our dreams. Also in the way that our impulses work against us or for us, okay? Say, for example, you want to heal an autoimmune disease, and maybe there are like a lot of impulses to get into the gym and impulses to fix your diet. I mean, that would be perfect, but is that the way that it is? Are you saying that there are other kinds of impulses, like, wanting to just lay in bed all the time, or wanting to just not focus so much on diet or exercise, as maybe we just need time or something, or we just need, maybe next month or the month after that. There's kind of a procrastination here that we need to really nip in the bud. And you see how I'm saying that? It's almost like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I do need more time. Careful about that. Careful about, eventually I'll start. Eventually I'll heal this autoimmune disease. Eventually I'll start saving money in a way that actually supports me getting to the place in life that I dream of. This is going to be so highlighted by this transit. And there's going to be a call to action, okay, for people who have some type of abstract idea about how they would like life to be, some kind of goal, something that's subjunctive or subjective, all right? For those of you who maybe have studied language before, you would know what the subjunctive tense is. That is like, I hope that the weather will be nice next Friday. Or, I don't want to see that person will not reach back out to me. These are subjunctive scenarios, like they're not real, but we're talking about how we want for things to be in a different reality, or how perhaps we speak of expectation, or we speak of what is hoped for, what is wanted for, what is thought about in an abstract way. So check in with this. How often are you thinking about subjective or subjunctive scenarios? How often are you working with hope? Because it inherently is a good thing. Because it's through our feelings and through the development and refinement of our empathy that we can bring about these subjective ideas that are not entrenched in the reality. Another problem of this transit could be is some people might just be too entrenched in reality, and they've stopped dreaming, or they've stopped thinking like what their hopes are, or they've stopped thinking about what they would like to see for themselves, as that could also be a function of Jupiter in Gemini and Mercury in Sagittarius, is like a quelling of the hope, or an inappropriate kind of reduction of hope. And then it can be the opposite. It can be kind of an unrealistic hope, or it can be trying to also revive or resuscitate something that is over too. So I'm seeing people kind of cling on as well to familiar things and trying to really breathe a lot of air or energy into things which also are not functioning. Square peg in a round hole, trying to put something too big into something too small, all right? Or trying to do things that are not physically possible is something that we're going to see here. So a lot of also hot air and speaking. We could be seeing that in a political context, in a global context. We could be seeing a lot of promises that are difficult to deliver on. Careful about promising anything during this time. Careful about trying to make things something they can't be also. Try to pursue more obvious goals here. Try to be realistic in your goal setting and make very hopeful and very kind of cosmic possibility more of a seasoning rather than the substance of the equation. Because we also see too much of a good thing here in a way too. People are just eating sugar with every meal, or people are just only eating things that, give that dopamine rush. Or people are kind of high on the supply of something that used to taste really good, but now it doesn't taste good because they've consumed it too much. So there's also this kind of syndrome of overdoing, I want to say. So is there anything that you're overdoing? I would really want to start getting out ahead of that by the time that we are moving into the Mercury retrograde on November 25th, and having real plans in place for the new year. Yes, both calendar and astrological New Year's. Great to plan before this starts. Okay, before this transit starts, for your January, for your March of 2025 even. Because it won't be until about February or March of 2025 that we really click what this transit did for us. It's going to be one of those times where hindsight is going to be required, I think, because there's just going to be an impossible nature about this time to really feel like things are perfect. So you can't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Just try to move in a good direction and don't stagnate yourself on the condition of perfection. That's been one of the things that keeps coming up all over this year, is don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. Just move towards better, better, better. And then eventually you're going to get to a point where the entire paradigm shifts or the entire sequence just makes more sense to you. Because we've got to make sense of our sequences. That's one thing I had written down for this transit as well, is anomalous sequences. So we talked a lot this year about anomalies and about things that are complicated and karmically complex issues, and working as a kind of puzzle solver to get our path right through this time. And I would see this as a climax of that. I would see this transit as like, okay, we've got to figure some stuff out, and we can't be bogged down in attention deficit. Okay, we can't be bogged down in addiction or impulse. We can't be too distracted here. Although, of course, this is a debilitated mutual reception of Mercury retrograde and Jupiter retrograde in Gemini. There could be distractions. There could be crazy news headlines. There could be also some type of communications failure, honestly. If we're thinking about the mundane, some type of data leak, some type of communications failure, some kind of internet or online programming or data issue, some kind of coding issue or glitch, something about the infrastructure of communication, or the infrastructure also that connects countries or connects different areas all into one centralized unit. That could be being changed here, or that could be also, maybe there's like a change or upgrade in that technology. Maybe this is a conversation about AI. I would see this as a turning point for AI, and it could even be kind of like a challenging point for AI. Maybe this is a point where AI like hits a wall, or where there's some kind of like unknown path forward, or like maybe it's not going to be what people thought it would, or maybe there's a there's some kind of missing piece of innovation that still has to be brought about before something can progress. So I'm seeing also people with this transit not happy that something isn't done, okay? Not happy that the innovation isn't here yet, not happy that the house isn't owned outright yet, not happy that the business hasn't retired them yet. Like there's this feeling of like, oh, but I was ready to be done. I was ready for that evolution. I was ready to communicate to myself that I had surpassed something, and there could be like yet another path or yet another offshoot, another off-branching element to this story that has to unwind. And nonetheless, this for some reason makes me think of the liminal nature of 2024, and how even though maybe certain paths are not closed yet or certain stories are not concluded, there's still some type of major transition and something about the previous part of it that's over. So this is like 9 of Wands energy. This is 10 of Wands. This is like, it's not over, but so much has happened. It's like, I'm so worn out of this story. And it is where people start employing a very creative narrative about why they are where they are. So like when people hate where they are, or when people are so burned out or so frustrated, they start telling themselves sometimes stories with like even religious undertones, or they start telling themselves certain like really desperate stories as well. So cue in on the desperation factor. Like try to cancel it out. Try to like, you know what, this is not a desperate situation. I'm doing awesome. Try to be your own cheerleader here. Try to bring some optimism into the scenario, because it's just not going to be pretty without the optimism. Also, I would lean into what you've already built, or showing to yourself or reminding yourself of how far you've already come as a way to motivate and mobilize yourself forward. Because I talked about this a lot this year on the channel too, like blank rooms or blank walls or blank scenarios are not great here. We need to be reminded of what we've accomplished. We need to remember what we're made of. We need to sort of galvanize confidence inside. There's going to be a different way that confidence expresses through this transit. And it could also be a transit that's queuing up, as I said earlier, yes, because there's a lot of disorganization, but also because maybe there's a need for more confidence, or there's something about the Gemini-Sag axis, right? Coming up in a debilitated sense, which could say misplaced confidence. It could also speak to a lack of confidence, or a confidence that is not scaled properly. It could speak to a concept that's not scaled properly. It could speak of growing pains. It could speak of a need for a rebranding or some kind of re-expression to the front-facing world. It could speak to sloppiness. It could speak to things being kind of like miscommunicated as well. But through this transit, we're going to refine. And I think throughout the year of 2025, the catalyst of this transit is going to make a very long refinement, in some cases rest, in other cases, or just sitting with what could be more appropriate in the future as a very exalted space for 2025. So anyway, everyone, check out the description box below. There are free trials on Patreon. I am making weekly forecasts. I have so enjoyed talking to you in a bit of a ramble today about the debilitated mutual reception of Jupiter and Mercury. Comment below and let me know your opinion about this transit. And yes, I will see you next Friday for the December Comprehensive Astrology. So come by on this channel and check out the live premieres, and yes, all of the December 2024 sign-by-sign readings will be going up onto Patreon later in the month. Come and check out a free trial, and I will talk to you all soon. Have a great one. Bye.